Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the South Coast Rail Phase 1 virtual listening session for New Bedford Stations. My name's Nancy Farrell. I'll be the moderator this evening. We're going to wait a few minutes to give people an opportunity to check into their Zoom and join us. So we'll hold for a couple of minutes and then introduce the panel and the rest of the discussion. Good evening. We are waiting a few minutes to give everyone a chance to sign into their Zoom. So we will start the presentation in just a couple of minutes. Good evening again and welcome to the New Bedford Stations virtual listening session. I'm going to wait another minute or so. I see people are continuing to join us and then we'll start the evening. Thank you. So good evening once again. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining this listening session on the New Bedford Stations. Again, my name is Nancy Farrell and I'll be moderating the presentation and discussion this evening. We're going to set out some ground rules because we want to hear from everyone, but we also need to have an efficient presentation. So first of all, the event is being recorded and the purpose of that is so that we can put it on the project website. And those who can't join us this evening have the opportunity to go back and watch the event. So I just wanted to make you aware that it is being presented. Everyone will be muted during the presentation because that way we don't hear background noise, dogs, dishes, the kinds of things that sometimes you hear if there isn't any muting. We also have interpreters tonight for Spanish and Portuguese, and I'm going to invite the interpreters right now to introduce themselves and tell people how to join their channels to hear those languages. Ladies? Gabrielle? And Soledad? Soledad, I think you may be not on the English channel. Apologies, we don't seem to hear Soledad. But if you go to the bottom of your screen, there is a globe, and you can choose English, Portuguese, or Spanish. And I'd encourage you now to choose the language that you would like to hear the presentation in. English, Portuguese, or Spanish. Now, wait a moment, make sure everyone can find the globe and check off their language. Okay. So there will be time for public comment at the end of the meeting. And if we go to the next slide, Kim, I can show you that we are going to repeat this slide near the end of the presentation so you can see how to ask a question or make a comment. In addition, if you're having any problems with the Zoom, you can call the number that's there for tech issues. So please don't hesitate to do that. We will ask people at the end to pose only one question or comment at a time. You can either use the raise hand button, or you can put a question or comment in the Q&A. Again, we ask you not to overload it because we like to hear from as many people as possible with as many diverse questions as possible. And if you are in the Spanish or Portuguese channel, you must also raise your hand to provide comments or questions verbally so the interpreters can hear you. We will go through this again at the end of the meeting to make it very clear. If we run out of time to respond to questions, or you think of something after the meeting, you can email us at southcoastrail@.state.maus. It will again be on the screen at the end, so you'll be able to see all the appropriate periods and everything. And I'd like to remind you that the meeting is being recorded, and we also appreciate your participation and look forward to having a productive meeting. Next slide, please. So before we dive into the actual session, I want to introduce the people who are going to be speaking this evening. Jennifer Tabakin is the program director for South Coast Rail. Jean Fox, the director of community engagement, and Bob Campbell, the director of design administration. And you'll be hearing from all of them this evening. But first, I'd like to invite Jennifer, who is going to add a few words of welcome to everyone before we begin the presentation. Jennifer?
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you to everybody for setting up this virtual meeting and taking the time too to participate in it and be involved in the South Coast Rail program. I just want to offer everybody a thank you and congratulations for getting to this point with South Coast Rail at the MBTA, at DOT, in the city of New Bedford, and all the municipalities and communities in the area in Massachusetts have been working on this project to get us to this point for up to 20 years. We are now here to give information about the status of the project and announce the news of construction underway. So here we go with phase 1, and we'll go forth with our presentation. And I'm passing this off to now, Nancy, do I introduce the key members here, or we're going to?
Why don't you hand it back to me and we'll jump right back in. Thanks,
right.
Jennifer.
And on to Nancy to do some introduction.
Great, thank you. So our agenda tonight is to talk to you about what's happening in New Bedford, about the 2 stations and the layover facility, and gather your comments and thoughts and respond to them to the extent we can. And if we can't, we'll be producing more answers for you that will be available on the website or via emails. Again, you can see where you can send additional comments. And next slide, Kim. And I think we're going to go to Bob right now. Bob Campbell is going to walk us through the first 4 or so slides. Bob, you can take it from me.
Hi, welcome everybody. First thing I want to go over is the recent milestones of the project. Phase 1, service is fully funded and planned for the end of 2023. It includes new stations in Middleborough, East Taunton, Freetown, Fall River Depot, Church Street, and New Bedford. The MBTA awarded the Fall River Secondary Construction Package to Skanska D.W. White JV for $158,975,000. The Middleborough Secondary New Bedford Main Line and Systems contract was awarded to the joint venture of SCR Constructors for $403.5 million. The South Coast Railroad Constructors is a joint venture of the Middlesex Corporation and Tudor Perini. We did very well on the bids for both projects. We had 6 bidders for the Fall River Secondary, 3 bidders for the Middleborough Secondary New Bedford Mainline contract. So we think we got good bids on those. You'll be seeing construction on both of those lines probably sooner on Fall River, but by the end of 2020. Next slide, please. So what we've already done, and this is within the past couple of years, we've done $1.7 million worth of demolition by D.W. White Construction of Acushnet. That included 1 location in New Bedford at 387 Church Street, the site of the new station. And that project has done very well. We're almost finished with that. There's 1 parcel to be finished right now. So our completion date of November 2020 looks well within reach. We also did early action on replacing 44 culverts along the line, and those are all finished. We're just filing out that contract now. And also we're in the process of replacing 4 railroad bridges, 2 in Berkeley, 1 in Freetown, and 1 in Lakeville. And those are also all nearly done. Next slide, please. So the elements of the New Bedford Mainline package, the one we're talking about tonight, is 24.1 miles of track, 4 new stations. That's at Middleborough, East Taunton, Church Street Station, and New Bedford Station. And then the layover site at Wamsutta, which is pretty close to New Bedford Station, as you know. We have 18 grade crossings along the line. There's 4 of them in New Bedford: Samuel Barnett Boulevard, Pig Farm Road, Tarkin Hill Road, and Nash Road. We also have systems installation, positive train control, testing and commissioning, and safety certifications. Those last 4 items cover the New Bedford Mainline, Middleborough Secondary, and also the Fall River Secondary, which is expected to be completed in the end of 2022. So that's the end of my 3 slides. I'm going to turn it over now to Nancy.
Jean, I think you're going to walk us through the new stations in New Bedford.
There. So welcome everybody. It's nice to see, I see 67 participants. That's fantastic. The 2 stations in New Bedford, as were mentioned previously, are Church Street and the New Bedford Station, which is over by the ferry parking at C Street. They both serve residential and business districts. They provide, well, the one provides especially improved access to the working waterfront. There are multimodal connections planned at both stations. We anticipate and are actually very convinced that we'll be fostering new development with these stations and with the train. And we believe we're providing a very great gateway to the downtown area and to the tourist areas in the city of New Bedford. Next slide, please. So Church Street, as was mentioned, is at 387 Church Street. It has a nice landscaped area that goes right up to the Church Street area. It is also supported by the city's transit-oriented development study. They've been working very closely with SERPID and a number of regional or city groups, obtained public input on ideas about housing, business development, and transportation around both stations. This station has an 800-foot high-level platform with a canopy, a drop-off area, parking, and pedestrian and bicycle access. Next slide. Here's a rendering of the platform. It's a side platform, so there's only tracks on one side. The parking lot would be on the other side. Next slide. Here's another rendering. You can see the canopy. There'd be signage. There's benches. that's pretty much it. And it's also going to be able to tell you when the trains are arriving and departing. Next slide, please. So here's a rendering of it showing the landscaped area at the top, you'll see on the top left, and then the parking area and the access area, access egress. Next slide. So here's some details on this station. There are neighborhood connections, and the landscaped area on Church Street will give it a nice facade and frontage. It has access from Church Street for vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians. The emergency egress is provided from the south end of the platform. We have 355 parking places and bike parking for 22 bicycles. We have accessible parking and electric vehicle parking. This also is an 800-foot high-level platform with a 182-foot canopy. Bus stop and drop-off space, a transition plaza is provided at the station. Next slide, please. So we're doing some roadway access and improvements in the area of the station. We've determined that 40% of the ridership is west of the station and 60% is east of it. We have determined also that a pedestrian crossing at Church Street and Carlisle will be helpful. We're upgrading traffic signals at Church Street and at Nash Road. We are reconstructing 2,800 feet of sidewalk on the west side of Church Street from Tarkin Hill to the station driveway. Next slide, please. So we have conducted traffic studies in the area. Our original 2013 study was updated with new traffic counts that include seasonal variations, crashes, traffic conditions, as well as a 2030 no build and build conditions. Parking demand was estimated at anywhere from 260 to 270 daily boardings, which our 350 parking spaces should accommodate and then allow for growth. Similar impacts are anticipated, so we don't anticipate any additional data to change any of this. We have more pedestrian and bicycle trips now than we initially projected because of this new location. It's easier to access for peds and bikes. Next slide, please. So the New Bedford station, again, over by the C Street ferry service, has an Acushnet Avenue parking entrance. That's going to provide your access for vehicles and pedestrians. The sidewalk from Acushnet Avenue will provide pedestrian access to the station. We are constructing a pedestrian bridge over 18 and Acushnet Avenue that connects from Purchase Street. And this station will have 352 parking places, and it is shared parking with the ferry service. Next slide, please. Here's a rendering of where the pedestrian bridge lands at the transition plaza at the platform in New Bedford. You'll see it has the bike parking, it has regular parking. The transition plaza is where kiss and ride people go, buses go. And then there's also, just for pedestrian access, an easy way in and directly to the platform. Next slide, please. Here are some station views that show you from different perspectives, what it's going to look like on the platform. Again, it's a side platform, has the canopy, has benches, has signage, there's stair access as well as ramp access. Next slide, please. And for this station, we again have an 800-foot high-level platform with a 167-foot canopy. We're providing 22 bike parking places. We do have the accessible drop-off pickup, as mentioned, and the bus stop will actually be on Acushnet Avenue. We have the eight required accessible parking spaces per our studies and analysis, but we're providing 11, and we have one accessible EV, electric vehicle charging space. Or that was required, excuse me. We have 3. Next slide, please. So this is a rendering and a sort of graphic of the bridge. So again, it begins for your pedestrian access to the station on Purchase Street, crosses both spans or both lanes, both sections, north and south of 18 and that Acushnet Avenue, and plops you at the platform at the station. Next slide, please. Here's another rendering of the pedestrian bridge. We're still in the early phases of this, but where it's situated is pretty much where we've determined it needs to go. It's going to, again, cross all the spans and land at the platform. And you can see the parking lot is right there. Next slide, please. The transition plaza approach basically is where your bike parking is, and there's platform canopies. This is where, again, the kiss and rides go. People who want to bike, put their bikes over there. Pedestrians walk in there. That's where you enter the area to get to the platform. Next slide, please. And then, of course, we need a place for the trains to go at the end of the day. And that would be the Wamsutta layover facility. It's train storage for the overnight. It includes facilities for crew, cleaning, and fuel only. There's no maintenance that is conducted at this site. Adjacent freight handling will continue to operate, so the Mass Coastal Railroad freight operator is still going to be there. Our layover facilities typically have 6 tracks, a crew building, there's employee parking, and it is a gated facility. Next slide. This is a rendering of your classic MBTA crew quarters. Next slide. These are the grade crossings that you heard Bob Campbell describe. Samuel Barnett, Pig Farm, these are 2. Next slide. And then we have Tarkin Hill, where you've already seen a lot of activity. And you're seeing continued activity with the city's Kings Highway work. And the Nash Road would be the other crossing that we'll be working on. There were upgrades there before, but there's more work we're going to be doing. Next slide. So there are so many benefits to this project, and anyone who's been following it for 30 years like I have will recognize that we have been waiting for this for an awful long time. Yes, definitely construction and net new jobs in the thousands probably. We basically see this as an opportunity to open up this incredible housing stock in the city, but also to allow people from outside to come see the wonderful amenities that the city of New Bedford has to offer. We expect great economic vitality and job opportunities. This work that we're doing on the rail will also help with the freight traffic. So the poor freight trains operate at about 5 miles an hour on the tracks right now. We'll give them a much better infrastructure to move their work as well. The station area development potential is enormous. The city, to its credit, is doing a lot of planning around the transit-oriented development. What can we do in and around our stations, as well as how accessible is it for bike and ped people, pedestrians and bicycles to access the station, whether they're a quarter, half mile, walking distance. All of these things are being studied. Also, we feel, and I know from personal experience, that we could probably see tremendous savings in travel costs. The accessibility to jobs and gains in business and labor productivity, we expect to be quite noteworthy. We also believe that the connections to tourism, education, healthcare are going to be phenomenal, and that's reciprocal, really. And also the access to the Port of New Bedford. We're maintaining that access. We recognize the value of this port, as I think the entire country does. We're actually seeing that this is probably going to bring even more attention to it, but the access to it remains intact. Next slide. So we and many city departments have been in continuous coordination for a number of years now. So we have been continuing to work and will continue to work with them on the Tarkin Hill Kings Highway crossing and that work there, with the design of the pedestrian bridge as it progresses over 18 to the station. We'll work very closely with the city on a traffic mitigation program, and certainly we want to have open communication on any construction coordination. We recognize that other things are going on in the city. We have very good relationships with the departments that we need to interact with regularly, and we anticipate full cooperation and transparency and constant communication that will benefit everybody. Next slide, please. And here is our graphic of the schedule, and it shows if you go down towards the bottom, you'll see the Fall River secondary construction line, and you'll see the Middleborough, New Bedford, and Systems. We are all on track to get these done. As you heard, the contracts are out, and we are pushing and gonna get service by the end of 2023. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Nancy again.
Thank you, Jean.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are interested, you're watching tonight, you're interested in learning more about South Coast Rail, this is the information I think you can use, and you can come back to the presentation online. We'll put this slide up again, but these are the, you can visit the project website and sign up for updates that come out about construction pretty much every week now. And they will become even more important as the work becomes more intense starting later this year. You can send us comments at southcoastrail@dot.state.ma.us. You can also participate in the transit-oriented development planning study that Jean mentioned. And Kim, if you take us to the next slide, I do have some information. There's public meetings coming up on October 17th and October 21st. These are virtual online meetings similar to this one. But I know that the city and SERPED, the regional planning agency, which is doing the work, is very interested in your participation. You can email to nbtodstudy@gmail.com. And there's also a call and text line. So again, this is information that you can find in this presentation when it goes on the website. And one more slide will remind everyone how they can ask a question or make a comment. I don't think I remember to say at the beginning that if you're on the phone, and I see we do have a few people on the phone, and you'd like to ask a question, make a comment, you press *9, and then we will look for you to make a comment. And yes, we are going to go right now to questions. I will start with questions that are in the Q&A because here they are right away. And this one, I think probably is for Jean. Jean, have you done any recent ridership studies since the coronavirus? He asked because this is Steve Castellina. Because more people will be working from home because of the recent virus problem. This is predicted for the future. If you haven't done any recent ridership studies, when will you do another? And if you aren't going to do them, why not? It seems prudent to do these studies to make sure that this project is still viable before spending $1 billion, especially with the virus-related money problems the MBTA is now experiencing. And Jean, I heard you address this question last night in another meeting, so I'm going to let you start off.
Sure, I'm happy to start off. And Steve, thank you for the question. It's a great question. And it does come up. People are concerned that, you know, the pandemic is changing the way we do business. The reality is that we view the pandemic as a fairly temporary, although it seems like it's been forever, fairly temporary situation. And we have been committed to getting this thing built. We know that people will be riding the train again. We do understand that the MBTA is facing some fiscal constraints, but we are fully funded. Our money's not going anywhere. And we truly believe our ridership numbers are fairly conservative, that over time we will see great momentum behind this. So we're looking forward to building this and seeing everyone on the train.
Thank you, Jean. I didn't see any elected officials, but if there are any who would like to speak right now and raise your hand, then we will try to see you. It's a little harder to see than in the list than in person. I don't see anybody at the moment, but we will come back again to see if there are any elected officials. We have a question from Liana. She joined late. Will a recording be sent out? The recording will be on the project website, and we'll remind you again what that is at the end of the meeting. And you can just Google South Coast Rail and you'll find it. Paul De Silva would like to know, thanks for doing this for the New Bedford route. Will you be doing this for the Fall River one? And again, Jean, I think may I let you answer that one.
Hey, Paul, I haven't seen you in a while. Absolutely. We are going to be scheduling something, we think around mid-October. We've been working with the mayor's office, and we're very much looking forward to getting everyone on board in Fall River as well. Hope all is well with you.
You can see why she's the director of engagement, right, Jean? Okay. Jim Oliveira says, why didn't this project call for taking the New Bedford Career Center to mitigate the parking issue at the ferry parking lot? The building is owned by DCAM and is an outdated facility. As executive director of the local Mass Hire Workforce Board, we intend to vacate the facility before construction begins in that area, as we believe it will be disruptive and will negatively impact the Career Center utilization. In addition to the fact the building does not have proper internet bandwidth, has many infrastructure problems, and is better off raised for parking. And I think Jim didn't finish, but you get the gist of the question, I think, Jean.
Totally, and nice that you're here, Jim. Thank you so much. I am more than aware of the issues that plague the Career Center. And if you were not able to move, I could assure you that we would work very closely with you and the people that need to get in and out of the Career Center. It's an important facility and it has important work to do. The real reason is that our study showed that we have adequate parking. And also, quite honestly, the topography isn't great. You have a giant slope down to your parking lot at the Career Center from the existing parking lot, and we wouldn't have gained enough spaces to make it worth that. I may want to defer to one of our engineers, Mr. Carey, to go into a little bit more detail on why that was not very feasible for us when we were looking at this. Rick?
Taking off mute. Thanks, Jean. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jean. I think it really came down to we were able to accommodate our parking at the existing parking lot, and the net gain of the parking at the Career Center was not worth it. And there definitely is some challenges at that site, which I know the Career Center deals with on a day-to-day basis with drainage and that type of thing.
Thank you, Rick and Jean. Jake would like to know if New Bedford and Fall River will be Zone 10 for the MBTA. Do we know the answer to that yet, Jean?
To my knowledge, we do not have the answer to that yet. That will be analyzed further into the future. I'm not at all certain, and I'm not even going to guess at this point. But I do think the goal for the MBTA is to make this work for everybody.
All right, Jake, well, keep watching the website, and at some point we're going to have an answer for that question. I'm going to do one more in the Q&A, and then I'll go to hands raised. This is from John O'Leary. Can you please speak on the effects to the existing stations, specifically as it relates to the Middleborough Lakeville station? Will those stations continue to operate through construction and once the new line is in place? Thank you and best of luck. And who wants to jump on that one? Jean?
I'll start. I'm happy to start. So the station in Lakeville will remain operational while we are constructing phase 1 of South Coast Rail. The new station that we're building nearby is less than a half mile, or just about a half mile down the road over the line in Middleborough. There's no goal right now of closing Lakeville. So I also want to say thank you for wishing us good luck, because this has been a long time coming and we need the luck, but we think we have it. We're not trying to disrupt anyone. The goal is to have a seamless transition to our phase 1 service once we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to the hands raised, and I see DJC. You can introduce yourself. And Emily, can you unmute DJC?
Yes, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Do you want to come back to that one, Nancy? Maybe we can move on.
Yep, the second one is Robert Lachamoya. And I think you should be able to unmute yourself, Robert.
Hello, my name's Robert Lachamoya. I live in Middleborough. I'm a former railroader, and I've been involved in a lot of transportation over the years. This is a repeat from last night. I have also been involved in the South Station expansion project, which was key to this project, and that this T was planning to add tracks in South Station to handle this project. Apparently the post office had different ideas, and those tracks have gone by the wayside. Talking with Jean last night, she tells me that you'll be able to, when you go to phase 2, run the trains through to Back Bay Station, and I guess they're looking at other things.
So, yeah, I remember you from last night, Robert. Thank you for coming again. Can't get enough of South Coast Rail. You're absolutely right about the constraints at South Station. There's no question. Remember, it used to have many, many more tracks than it currently does. And I think what I said to you last night was I was going to double check with the folks at MassDOT Planning on where we are with the study. Yes, the post office has been a hiccup, but I also mentioned that for phase 1, at least, we can accommodate all our trains at South Station because we're only adding 2 trains to the 24 that currently run. And for Stoughton, you're absolutely right. Those trains would go through Back Bay, but they'd also go into South Station. And we did include in our preliminary engineering the reality that without the added tracks, we would not be able to accommodate as many trains as we had hoped. We would never start out with as many as we were planning. So that's still out there, Robert, and I do intend to follow up with the planning folks and see where the status of that study. I just don't know.
All right, thank you, Robert. Next question, Mary Cerise. Sorry, Mary, if I mispronounced your name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi. I have kind of I'm a reporter with WBSM. I have kind of a random question about the culverts. I'm interested in culverts because I know that Mass Fish and Wildlife has these newer standards for the design of culverts to facilitate the movement of aquatic fish and wildlife underneath roads and grade crossings. And I'm wondering, did you folks consult with Mass Fish and Wildlife in the construction of your culverts?
Jean's nodding, so I'm going to let her jump in, and maybe Kim, who's also very involved in the construction.
I actually am going to pass it off to Kim, but Mary, absolutely. We were engaged with every environmental group. We have turtle crossings in places, but Kim knows what we have done with the culvert. So Kim Dobaz, who's the director of construction for the project, is probably best equipped to handle the details of that question.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us here. And I may pass to Rick Carey, who's also on, so I get this correct, but we certainly engage with Fish and Wildlife, and not to make a real short answer, but all of the culverts are designed to the latest stream crossing standards. Rick, do you want to jump in if I'm...
That is absolutely correct, Kim. We engage with the environmental agencies. The culverts were designed to the current stream standards for the passage of wildlife under the culverts.
Okay, all right, thank you all. Our next hand up is Gus. Let's see, Gus Z, I'm going to say. Gus?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
First of all, congratulations. Sounds like an exciting project and it's going to be great for the area. I guess my question is there any plans for any connecting bus service for the alternate towns, for the adjacent towns, I should say, in terms of any type of shuttle service?
Yeah, so Gus, that's an excellent question. And we did a whole feeder bus study back in the day. And we are in constant communication with both GATRA and SRTA. We do need to make sure that the bus service is there. So, for example, buses coming out of Fairhaven can get to New Bedford. That's definitely in the plan. The conversations are ongoing, but we're in constant contact with Eric Russo at SRTA. We have had many, many meetings. And we've worked, our station designs all accommodate buses, not just intercity buses, but intra.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Jean. Robert Clinton is looking to find about companies looking to engage in construction contracts. If you have names and numbers for the general contractor. Mr. Clinton, if you write to us via the website, we can answer that question for you. And there's Gus, who already asked his question. Diamond Campbell has a question about the responsibilities of the 2 joint ventures. Has Skanska DW already completed their scope of work? Kim, could you just describe who's got what?
Sure. I'm not reading that written question, but so the first contract that we awarded that Bob Campbell spoke to was for the Fall River Secondary contract, and that starts on the Fall River Secondary, of course, just outside of in Berkeley, I'm sorry, just south of the New Bedford main line, and we awarded that contract back in May. We gave the contractor a full notice to proceed August 19th. So they're just getting underway. I wish that we were nearly complete. That would be great, but no, we're just getting going on that contract too. and they are scheduled for completion in December of 2022. So that's about 26 months to go.
Thank you, Kim. And so Mary had a follow-up question saying, did the culvert design accommodate anticipated increases in stream flow expected via climate change? And I'm going to guess, Rick, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. We designed for per DEP requirements for storm flow, and based on the most current data on 50 and 100-year storm events to address the current change in what we're seeing in the climate change and the changes in storm frequency and intensity.
Thank you. So here's an interesting question from Richard Taylor. How does a tourist from Boston get to the ferry terminal on foot? On Google, it seems like a bit of a walk with luggage or bags. I don't know the answer to that. Jean?
They have shuttle buses.
Ah, okay.
And they're more than happy to pick you up. They're really excellent. They kind of cruise the parking lot. You get on, they're very pleasant, and they take you right up to the terminal.
Terrific. Good news. That means I can do it and do my reverse commute and go out to the islands, right? Mr. Clinton, you missed, I guess you dropped off. If you send us an email via the website, we will answer your question. Terry would like to know how many trains will run from New Bedford and Fall River daily. How many trains are anticipated during rush hour?
Okay, rush hour is also called peak period. And we have 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. peak period trains to each of those two cities. And then we'll have a couple in midday ones. I can't give you the exact span of what that peak period is, but it does start pretty early in the morning and it will go in well into the evening. And as we get closer to revenue service, what the MBTA does, and it does very responsibly, is it goes over how many people need to get where and when to see how we can fit everybody at South Station and move the most people. So as we get closer, we'll have a better idea of timing, but the plan is 3 peak morning, 3 peak afternoon to each of the two terminal cities.
Thanks, Jean. And I don't see any more questions or comments. So if you have any and you want to raise your hand or put it in the Q&A, we would be happy to address them. And if I'm missing any, I see Bob C. has a question. Bob, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
My question was how much noise is going to come out of the Wamsutta layover per night? And have there been studies about how it's going to affect any neighbors that might be around, especially any residential people living there?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. It's a great question and certainly one worth asking, and I hope I can answer it to your satisfaction. The reality is there's going to be some noise, but the other reality is that they are not running all night. And in the winter months, when we all worry about diesel engines seizing up and batteries dying, they're plugged in. So there should be silence. That's not to say that when that first train gets ready to go in the morning, you may not, if you're somebody who sleeps a little bit later, you'll hear it. And you'll hear the last one at night, perhaps, if you're an early to bed person. But the reality is we're going to do our very best to keep the noise under control. But it's traffic, and it's certainly no worse than some of those fire trucks and ambulances that go through. And I know from my time in the city that can be pretty disruptive too. So they'll be quiet at night, Bob, in answer to your question. You will hear them in the morning when they rev up and get ready to go, and you'll hear them come in at night.
Thank you, Jean. And Eric, do you have any other questions or comments? Give everyone a second or two to think if they have anything they want to share with us.
We have another one in the Q&A list, Nancy.
Oh, thank you. Paul Schass, thank you for your continued support and dedication to the South Coast region. Do you anticipate purchasing new engines and passenger cars for this route?
Paul, it's so nice to have Paul Chase on this call.
Sorry.
Paul led the whole coalition charge and has been such a super supporter of this. So Paul, yeah, we have got on order 16 bi-level coaches. So, which, you know, the 2-story suckers. So I'm really excited about that. And new locomotives, not right away, but we should have them. And yeah, we're going to be in very good shape when we launch. And thank you for all your hard work on behalf of this project.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jean. Looks like Robert Lachimoye has one more question. I don't see any other new questions, so I will recognize Robert, who can unmute himself.
But thank you. Just following up on the noise question. I live about a half a mile from the main line in Middleborough. I can hear the trains tooting as they're going across crossings, and that's about it. And with my windows shut, I don't hear them.
Oh, well, that's good. You do know that they're required to sound their horns, you know, for crossings. That's absolutely what they need to do. It's a safety issue. It's recommended by FRA and it's endorsed by MBTA. I'm glad to hear that they don't bother you with your windows closed. They're quick though. The nice thing is they toot the horn, then they're gone. Where you are though, Robert, unfortunately you have a lot more freight traffic and that travels a little more slowly. So the sound may last a little longer.
Thank you. And any more comments or questions? I don't see any more in the Q&A.
Got another one in Q&A.
Bob C is back. Bob, you want to try? I think you need to unmute yourself, Bob.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My question was positive train control. With respect to positive train control, it looks like the whole system is going to be under positive train control. I'm going to assume that's the MBTA. And I'm going to assume that the intention is so that there's no types of accidents like they had down on Amtrak a number of years ago. But will the freight trains also be under positive positive train control?
Yes, Bob, they will. And you're right, system-wide, we have PTC, that's a federal mandate, and we're following through on that. So South Coast Rail is part of it, but yes, the freight trains will as well. And that's an excellent question.
Thank you, Bob. Richard Taylor asked how we feel about Transit Matters' push for a more regional rail system rather than AM and PM commutes. They also push for single-level boarding and not double-decker coaches. I don't know, Jean, are you familiar with this? I've heard
yeah, a little bit. Transit Matters, you know, really, if somebody wants to go, and I strongly recommend reading the Rail Vision report that was issued, I think, last year at this time. They had 6 alternatives that were proffered, and they do point to a more regional approach. They do point to, and many people have commented on, we seem to be limited in our point A to point B philosophy behind commuter rail, where I've heard people say, well, why can't we just get on one train and go all the way to New York? I think we have a vision. I think we need to follow through. Clearly there's funding that's an issue here. And then it would require interstate cooperation as well, if you get to that point. So yeah, I mean, from our perspective, you have a region of the state that was connected by rail into the late 1950s. And since, I mean, that was the interstate highway period when nobody wanted to ride a train and trains were no longer a desirable option, and they fell into kind of disrepute. And what we found is that from our region to get into the hub of Boston is nearly impossible. We have 140 and 24. We need to have access, and this is a wonderful start to begin that. The conversation that Transit Matters raises is one that needs to continue.
Thank you, Jean. And let's see. Okay. Doug White asks if there will be a double track segment between Myrick's Junction and Cotley Junction. We give that one to Kim or Rick. Kim, you're nodding? Or should I give it to Rick?
Answer's yes.
The answer is yes. It's double track, correct, Mr. Carey?
That is correct, Kim.
Okay, great. That sounds like a
4
train,
tracks. Yep.
a train operator question there. And do we have any more questions? Looks like we went to one more. Thank you, says Mr. White. He's happy to hear there are 2 tracks, double tracks. All right. I don't see any more hands up. I don't know if there are any in the Spanish or Portuguese section. We haven't heard anything, right, Emily? Okay. All right. Robert, I'll give you, it looks like you might be the last batter here, if you have a short question for us.
Well, following up on that last question, this is the first I've heard of double track. It certainly is an excellent idea. Could you give me the time factor on that, please?
I'm sorry, the time factor?
You were talking about double track between Middleborough and East Taunton.
No,
No.
No, it was double track between Cotley Junction and Myrick's Junction. So basically between Taunton and Berkeley. The section between Taunton and Middleborough, the tracks will stay as they are, single track.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
Well, I do not see any more hands up or Q&As. So I am going to ask Kim you to go to the next slide. I think we've got the, yes, here's the information. If you want to go, if you want to send someone to the website to look at this, to review the video, or go back yourself and look at some of the maps or designs, please go to our website. You can also send us comments at southcoastrail@dot.state.ma.us. And the TOD information, www.serped.org/new-bedford-tod-study. I encourage everyone to participate in the TOD study. It really, I think, can have a very positive effect on what's going to be happening around the stations. If you have other questions for the team, please don't hesitate to write. We do our best to answer quickly and efficiently. Unless anyone else has anything else to add, I think we're going to wish everyone a good evening, a late dinner. And
Got one more question, Nancy.
One more? Okay, Kim, you're watching.
Sorry. Thank you, Richard Taylor. He's excited about phase 2 electric.
All right. I think we all are. So thank you, Richard. Thank you to our interpreters. Thank you to everyone who participated this evening. We really appreciate it. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we want to wish you a very pleasant, good evening and hope to see you in a couple years riding South Coast Rail. Good night.